Good morning, everyone. It's 9:30 a.m. on this Thursday, January 27th, and I would like to call to order the teleconference meeting of the Building and Operating Committee. Before we begin, however, please note that this meeting is being recorded. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
That's the other thing where you can get an emergency. Take that still. Did I renew that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Everything okay?
I'm sorry, I was on mute. Director Cochran.
Oh, no,
Here.
it's all good. I just thought I blew my first meeting, my first paragraph.
Director Conroy.
I'm present. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Trying to
No
get the mute off.
Director Hernandez.
Here.
Director Parr.
Yes.
Director Rabbit.
Yes.
Vice Chair Maston.
Here.
Chair Garbarino.
Here.
And President Terrio.
Here.
Thank you. You have a quorum, and also on the line you have Directors Grospel, Hill, and Rodoni. I'm going to confirm staff on the line. Dennis.
Present.
Joe Wire.
Yes.
Thank you. Eva Bar-Furbish.
Present.
Thank you. Madeline Chun.
Present.
Thank you. Dave Rivera.
Good morning, President.
Thank you. Mona Babata.
Present.
Thank you. Jim Swindler.
Present.
And Kelly Hopper.
Good morning.
Great. That confirms staff on the line.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. And I would like to remind you to mute your phones until after staff's presentation. And remember to unmute and identify yourself when we open up for director discussion. If there are any comments or questions, the Secretary or I will call on you accordingly. Following our discussion, we will ask for any public comment before moving on. Please follow along by referring to the page numbers located on the bottom right-hand corner of your meeting packet. We will now begin with agenda item number 3 to approve award of contract number 2021 F066, on-call inspection and service of the inflatable buoyant apparatus and emergency evacuation system. The staff report begins on page 3, and we have Jim Swindler on the line to present the report. Jim, please begin your presentation.
Good morning, Madam Chair, and thank you. I'm here this morning to present an item to approve and award contract 2021-F-066, which is on-call inspection and service of the inflatable buoyant apparatus and marine evacuation systems to Avalon Rafts Sales and Service, Inc. By way of background, Golden Gate ferry vessels are equipped with safety equipment, including inflatable buoyant apparatus, as well as, in some cases, marine emergency escape slides to aid in the event of an emergency. This equipment is required to be on board by the United States Coast Guard, and they also require the inspection. We have approximately 40 rafts throughout the district, a varying number on each vessel. The RFP was posted on the district's procurement portal, and notification was sent to 5 potential proposals. However, at the time the proposals were due in December, we had received 0 submissions. So we reached out to a couple of proposers and received a single proposal, which was submitted on December 13th, 2021. That proposal was from Avalon Rafts Sales and Service of Wilmington, California. After considering Avalon's written proposal, the selection committee determined that it met all the requirements for services requested by the district. We also reached out to a couple of other ferry operators to see how the Avalon had performed for them. The price is no higher than what any other agency would pay for these services, and also we had we have history to look back at. We looked at our history of these types of services and determined that the price was reasonable. So the total price for contract number 2021-066 is for a 3-year base term with 2 1-year option term with 2 1-year options, not to exceed $597,614. And this is included partially in the FY 2021-22 budget, and the balance will be carried in a future operating budget. So with that, we recommend approval of this item, and I'm available to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Jim, for your presentation. Are there any questions or comments from the directors on this item?
Director Maston, I have a quick question.
Okay, go ahead.
So what happened to our previous vendor?
The previous vendor had some problems with us in the way we require the vendor to actually remove the rafts from the boat. And he just decided not to bid this time around. We expect he'll be back at a later time, and we've actually changed that process a little bit, but that's basically what we know.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else? Okay.
Madam Chair, this is Director Cochran. I'll move the item.
Wonderful. Do we know, is there a second out there?
Director Maston, second.
Thank you. Now, is there any other further discussion from the public, Amaret?
I have no speakers on this item.
Okay, wonderful. We'll take a roll call vote.
Thank you. We have a first from Director Cochran and a second from Director Maston. I'm going to start a roll call vote with Director Arnold. Who's absent? Director Conroy.
Aye.
Aye. Director Garbarino.
Aye.
Aye. Director Giudice. Absent. Director Grothbull.
Aye.
Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Director Maston.
Aye.
Director Melgar is absent. Director Parr.
Aye.
Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Director Rodoni.
Aye.
Director Snyder. Absent. Director Stephanie is also absent. Second Vice President Hill.
Aye.
First Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
And President Tirio.
Yes.
Thank you. You have 11 ayes.
Thank you, Amaret, and thank you all. That motion passes, and for the record, that is for the award of contract number 2021-F066. We'll now move on to item number 4 on the agenda, an informational monthly report appointees on the Sonoma Marin Area Rail Transit Board. A brief staff report is on page 5, and I would like to report that some of the highlights, unless Barb or David, you would like to join in or take over?
Either way.
Okay.
Would you like me to say something? This is Barb. A little bit about our ridership, as Dennis mentioned earlier in the other meeting. It's going to fluctuate when we get into January. So these are all December numbers. And finally, we're comparing COVID versus COVID rather than pre-COVID versus COVID, which is a little bit different kinds of numbers, I think. Actually, smart ridership is inching up in December. We're actually at 42% of what we have historically carried. And in December, as you know, with the bridge, there's historically a seasonal dip. So we were down 27% fiscal year 2021 just for December, and it was only 15% for 22. So we're optimistic that we're easing up a little bit. Probably the most exciting thing we're doing, we have a new general manager, Eddie Cummins, and He is starting us on he calls it SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, to look at SMART as a system and do some strategic planning. So since the agenda is a little short, I'm going to share just a little bit more than we usually do. When we talked, and this was on a slide, and we talked about it extensively. And by the way, the community that tapped in loved what we did, and I was a little jaded on it. I said, I think the reason that they loved us to hear about that, love to hear about it, is because they were surprised that we actually knew about ourselves. They were surprised that we knew we had weaknesses and opportunities. Anyway, so our strengths are SMART is safe and reliable. It's bi-directional for commute patterns, and the infrastructure is in excellent condition. Of course, it's brand new, most of it. The weaknesses, we determined some of the 2 or 3 of the most notable. We still aren't up to stuff on the first and last mile connections. Purposely, we had a single track system, and that's turned into be kind of a weakness for us now. And the one that it brought a smile to our faces was that everything's a priority when you're SMART, because we're still a young organization. So our opportunities that we noted were that we could improve the strategic direction and alignment of the system, that we could improve the wayfinding, the real-time information, the apps, the online presence, and I think all of the transportation systems in the Bay Area have found that that's true. Ours is probably just a little bit more opportunistic because we're new, and we may not have gotten all the signs up that we needed up right away. And another opportunity is to increase the interaction with the public and the community leaders. The threats that we noted, and there are many more on our slide, I just picked 2 or 3 from each one, but the threats are that there really is a well-organized and funded set of opponents for our new sales tax. Another one is the extension north of Windsor and east of Novato are not on the Plan Bay Area 2050, and we feel that those are both important connections. And the third one is, as with the bridge, we're in a post-pandemic, well, not really yet, but the post-pandemic environment actually pretends that people are still going to work from home. And so we may never get back to the ridership that we once had. So with that, I'll turn it over to the other members that may have some more information to report.
That was a wonderful report, Barb. Thank you so much for that. I have to admit, before I turn it over to David, I missed the last SMART board meeting. I was taken to Mexico by my cousins, where I spent wonderful time getting fishing boats. So, David, do you have anything?
Well, Barb did a great job, and I think there's follow-up on the kind of the vision, mission, objectives, goals, strategy for the board, and making sure that we're in alignment with staff and the new general manager. I am excited about the first and last mile, and talking to the new general manager regarding those opportunities that exist there, as well as some of the housing opportunities that still exist. You know, being 4 years in, we still have some empty land around our stations. I believe wholeheartedly that once we really start to work with the cities to get those projects built, that it will drive more ridership to the train. And I think, as Barb said, you know, our numbers are inching up slowly, but I mean, this organization knows well the impact of the pandemic and all the, you know, challenges and looking over the horizon on what holds for transit in the future post-pandemic world, and how many people shift their workplace and all of the above. But great job, and exciting time to be on this organization and that organization, if not challenging. Thanks.
Those were 2 magnificent reports. Thank you, colleagues. I'd also like to add, and perhaps I can send to Amaret, our general manager, Eddie Cummins, had sent a 7-page, very, very clearly outlined report about ridership, things that Barbara covered as well. and 2 diagrams about the strategic objectives. So, Amaret, after this committee meeting is over, perhaps I can forward that to you for any board members who are interested.
Got it. I'll send it out.
Cool. Are there any board members at this time who have comments or questions regarding the report? Okay, that then concludes discussion on item number 4. But before we move on, is there anyone from the public wishing to speak on this item?
We have no speakers from the public on this item.
Okay. No action is required for item number 4, so we will move on to item number 5, the status projects report. Report begins on page 7. Ava, please proceed with your informational report.
Chair Garbarino, members of the committee, my written report is before you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have for me.
Thank you, Ava. Are there any questions for her on her engineering report?
Chair Garbarino, this is Director Hernandez. May I have a comment, please?
Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and congratulations on your appointment to the chair position. You're doing a fabulous job so far. Thank you to our Chief Engineering Officer for, once again, a fabulous report that's very comprehensive. Again, appreciate so much your highlighting. It really helps to figure out the status of things relative to your latest activities. I had a question, and it relates to the item on page 29, the earthquake response plan. And it just sort of occurred to me that with the recent events that happened in Tonga, with the underground volcano and the earthquake and tsunami and all of that occurred after that, I'm pleased to see in your report that we're doing a great job in terms of earthquake response. But it just sort of occurred to me that, you know, there are a lot of other things that are related to earthquakes that could potentially affect the district, for our facilities, our services, our operations, our staff experience, relative to these types of natural disasters. And in light of the tsunami concerns that came up after the events in Tonga, I'm wondering if the district experienced any negative effects. And in general, you know, there's also the greater concern in the long term of rising seas as a result of climate change. Do we have a plan for possibly dealing with a tsunami? Do we have a plan in the long term to deal with the potential effects of earthquakes that result in tsunamis? Are we at all at risk? And would love to hear your comments on that. Thank you very much. And thank you, Madam Chair.
So, if I may, we were not affected by the tsunami caused by that volcano explosion. And the bridge itself is very resilient in terms of withstanding high surge of the sea. Several years ago, we did the underwater inspection of the bases of both of our main towers of the suspension bridge, and we discovered that they are in really good shape. There is some repair on the surface that we still have to do near the North Tower, but other than that, as you notice, the topography of the terrain under the bridge is such that we basically can withstand quite a high surge of waves. The most exposed part is the west wall of the South Anchorage House, but during our seismic retrofit of the structure, we strengthen and really improve the resiliency of that wall. We use special mix of concrete and so on. So when you go to the South Anchorage House, inside it's quite dry. And other than that, I would like to also add that we have just replaced the whole system of monitoring ground motion at the bridge site. And my staff is currently working on updating the seismic response plan, which was created over a decade ago. We are reviewing it on annual basis, and I think it's time for us to take a really fresh group and work closely with Dave Rivera and get this plan in place. So I hope it will never happen, but if earthquake happens, we will be able to respond really quickly. I don't know if I answered your question, Director Hernandez, in full.
No, that was very helpful. I suppose my follow-up question then is a tsunami response plan incorporated in the seismic response plan, or do we need to have a tsunami response plan? It sounds from what you just said that we're in really good shape, but is a tsunami response plan necessary?
Yeah.
This is Dennis. I was going to say for the bridge, it's not necessary, but our ferry facilities are adjacent to the water. So in the last 5 years, this was our second tsunami watch that came through. And so ferry has standard operating procedures to address any potential concerns. And there was no damage to any of our ferry facilities or any of our vessels during either of those last two events.
Thank you. And thank you to our Chief Operating Officer. Thank you. Excuse me, our Chief Engineering Officer. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Sabrina, for your important questions and, as always, for your great report. Are there any other questions for Ava?
Madam Chair, Director Terrio.
Okay, go ahead.
My first thought when the question of tsunamis came up was exactly what Dennis was talking about, the ferry facilities. And I think First Vice President Cochran might tell us a thing or two about harbors and tsunamis. I had a question that I was beginning to ask Dennis in some of the chatter just before one of these meetings about the installation of the cables that will eventually support the net system on the suicide deterrent system. And I rode across the bridge on Monday and saw that the temporary scaffolds had been extended out to do work on those. But Dennis was beginning to tell me a little about that. Whatever you feel free to share about that, I'd like to hear. Thank you.
Sure, if I may. So it was a little bit of a setback. The contractor decided to begin installation of the net system on the west side of the North Approach Viaduct because they decided that this is a place most suitable for them to basically practice and go through the learning curve in terms of getting skilled in installation of the net system. So they began in December with installation of the so-called border cables. And these are cables that will be tensioned and they will support the net fabric itself. But there was some setback. There was a problem with the materials, with some of the elements, and there were some problems with the quality of the cables themselves. So they had to dismantle portion of it. But they restarted the installation now, and we hope that in 2 weeks they can complete that process and they will proceed with the installation of the net. They will use the lifts and lifts from the deck of the bridge to spread the fabric. And that will be a different procedure than that one that will have to be put in place on the suspension bridge. But it still allows the contractor to figure out how to most efficiently and with high quality install all the connections. And this is quite complex system, never been done before. So it's obviously, it requires more preparation that the contractor or before planned for. With respect to the suspension bridge, they began fabrication also of a special apparatus, they call it a spooler, that will allow them to install net fabric on the suspension bridge. It will be moved along the side of the bridge truss and will basically spread the net that then they will be able to connect to the border cable. So I hope that I answered your question, Director Torrio.
No, that was very good. Thank you. Ms. Bauer-Forbush.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks again. Is there anyone else who has comment or question on this item?
This is Director Rabbit.
Go ahead, David.
Yeah, I'm just curious, Ava. So last night I'm flipping the channels on TV and I see the Golden Gate Bridge show up, and obviously I left it on to see what they were talking about. And it was one of those engineering shows talking about the railings and the noise and whatnot. And I'm looking through the engineering update report. Where are we right now on the retrofit there, and how often of late have the winds, speed, and direction been so that we're humming away or not? Just curious on where we are with that resolution.
Okay, so I apologize. I don't have exact statistics on the occurrence of the sound, but I get the reports from staff that is working on the bridge alongside the contractor, and there were no major sound rising events as far as they reported to me. And we know that the sound carries, especially like I mentioned in my previous report, the low tone, so it is possible that it reaches the neighborhood. With respect to the measure to reduce the sound, we have prepared the technical paper specifications, and next week, hopefully, we will be publishing those specifications and requests for quotes from the aluminum clips fabricators. So we hope to get quotes and hopefully find the supplier that can proceed quickly.
I appreciate that. And just to note, after watching that episode and that segment on that episode, whoever the expert that they brought in was absolutely wrong in why the noise was emanating from the railings. But I appreciate the update and look forward to just continuing down that path.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, David, for your question. Any other questions for Ava? Okay, there is no action associated with item number 5. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak on this item or address this committee under item number 6?
We have no speakers for public comment or for this item. Thank you.
Thank you. We've reached the end of the agenda. May I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved, Rabbit.
Thank you, David.
Second, Hernandez.
Thank you, Sabrina. Hearing no objections, this concludes this meeting of the Building and Operating Committee. The time is 9:58. Thank you, everyone.